Thanks for tuning in to the Football Talk Squadron. I'm Dutch.
And I'm Maul.
And welcome to our post-conference championship. And really what we're going to talk about today is the committee's decisions that they made in the playoff of really who they put in and who they left out. I know I have a bigger piece that I'll get to here in a minute in terms of my solution that I think works best for right now, that I think is the smartest thing for them to do. That and, I'm going to post a TikTok and see if maybe we can pop some views off. But Maul's got also two big questions, so I'll let him get to his big questions first. And
yeah. So the first one, easy. Outside of anybody who's listened, they've heard our rants over and over and over again about how it's what the current system is stupid. How they currently rank things are stupid. However, I'll just say all of that being said, the data and the season as it went, what we are presented right now, the first big question, which will lead to a long discussion of, did they get it right? Did what they were presented and now what we have as the matchups, did they get it right?
no.
Okay, why not? Like, what was wrong with what they did? What do you think they should have done based on the current setup?
There was two options for them to do, and I think that either of these options I would have answered your question with yes, but they chose a blend, which was option one. The only thing that they could have changed 1v1 was leave BYU in and kick out Miami. And then you don't punish either team for losing their conference championship. Or you say both Alabama and BYU are out, and now Notre Dame and Miami are in. I think in either one of those scenarios, I would sit back and go, I understand both. But you did a blend of both. Punish BYU for losing bad when Bama also lost bad. Bama doesn't drop in the rankings, but somehow BYU does. That's my only, why they got it wrong.
Agreed. I would have said, I could have understood if they dropped Bama and BYU out. I would have still said that was wrong, though, because they have said, and we have documented multiple times, how silly it is to have played an extra game and be penalized for it by losing, right? But like you said, what they did was probably the most wrong of what they could have done, because by every standard and metric, BYU's resume compares with Alabama, Notre Dame, Miami. Like, you could make the argument that they're in the Big 12, got it, but from strength of record, strength of schedule, all of that stuff, best loss, best wins, all of that stuff, very, very similar from a resume standpoint. And this is why I was saying, out of everything, BYU got robbed more than anybody, because going into the week, they weren't ahead of Notre Dame, but they were ahead of Miami, which it's like, how can you punish that? Not only how can you punish a team who played in a conference championship, but how can you then reward a team who is sitting idle? That is crazy to me. And you can't say, oh, well, that's because BYU got killed. I'm sorry, and this is not a Bama hate on you, but they got -3 rushing yards. There was all the memes and the jokes going about the teams that were sitting idle at home got more rushing yards than Alabama because they were negative. They both got killed. And yes, did that look very bad for Alabama? And was that indicative of what should be a playoff team? Absolutely not. Nobody would say yes. That being said, they made the statement that playing in a conference championship, basically the number one team in the SEC at that point won't get punished. That's fine. Like, if that's the rule and the line of the sand that you want to draw, fine. But you've got to apply it across the other Power 4 conferences. And that is just wild and so disrespectful that they didn't. I can't understand how they punished BYU that way. Now, the one thing I will say that they got right is that they put Miami in over Notre Dame. Because when it came down to it, and it was like there's only one spot for one of those teams, it had to have been Miami. It had to be Miami over Notre Dame. I'm surprised they did it that way because I really didn't expect it. I told you guys that was what they needed to do. I just didn't expect they would have done it. So, not that I'm glad they put Miami in, but that was like the one thing they did get right. That being said, again, not dropping Alabama at they didn't even drop them a ranking. Like, they didn't even lose a spot, but they dropped BYU out is criminal in my opinion. And then I was just going to say that whether or not they got it right, this whole leaving. They're not leaving the ACC out because they got Miami, but the two teams that were in the ACC championship didn't get in, but the somehow third or fourth ranked ACC team that finished the season is able to it just shows how broken this current system is and how bad we need reform because it's so flawed.
The reason Bama didn't drop in the ranking was because if they had, they played Ole Miss, which is not the problem, but the winner of that game plays Georgia. They didn't want that rematch. I will fall on that sword that they did this for scheduling purposes. Plain simple.
I don't disagree. Yeah, we've talked about that too. Of they will adjust. That's like what we were talking about with Ohio State and stuff. They'll put them wherever, because either one could make sense. Whether you put them at 9, whether you put them at 10, or whether you put Ohio State at 2, 3, or 4, all of them make sense. But we have this sneaky suspicion that they're gonna put them based on wherever the other teams fall. That gives them kind of the most favorable TV matchup or viewing matchup.
Yeah. What was your question 2?
So question 2 is, based on how it is set now, the current bracket, who would you rather be? What? Because this plays into it in future brackets of, do you want to be number 1? Depending on who you got to play. Because, so Indiana is going to play the winner of JMU and Oregon, right?
No. Indiana's going to play the winner of Bama and Oklahoma.
Bama, Oklahoma. Right? So it's would you rather play the winner of Bama or Oklahoma, or would you rather play the winner of JMU, Oregon? Or, that's the question. Who would you rather be at this point?
I'd rather be Texas Tech.
Yeah.
And it's just from the standpoint, heads up, I like Oklahoma in the game, home field advantage. I think Oklahoma's defense is going to do exactly 1-for-1 what Georgia's defense just did in terms of, I think they can easily execute to the same level that Georgia did, but they're going to do the exact same thing that Georgia did in terms of scheme, blitzing, all of that. I just sort of sit back and I go, well, I would hate to have to play Oklahoma's defense if I'm Indiana. I would rather go against, Oregon, who I've already beaten once this season, than play against Oklahoma with a good defense. I think Oklahoma's offense has struggled. It's why I think Bama has a chance. Right now, Vegas has Bama favored, which sort of blows my mind, to be brutally honest.
Yeah, Oklahoma already beat Bama once. Usually you could try to make an argument of oh, these are different teams, yada, yada, yada. If anything, Bama has been on this negative slide lately. That's just, it's very, it's as you know, if as you were a Bama fan, like I know you're not feeling good going in, like watching that Georgia game and them just get absolutely dominated on one side of the ball is not a pretty sight. I agree with you that Oklahoma's offense is. I think it could be as potent as Georgia's offense was. Not that it was really that potent, but like it has the ability to play that well. They also have been on a negative slide, though, when it comes to offensive production. So you're right. I think they do exactly what Georgia did to Bama. And like Bama is just going to get lucky to like cross the 50-yard line. The one thing I'll say that's in Bama's favor is that I don't think Oklahoma's offense is as good as Georgia's offense was in that game. So there is a little bit of hope there, but I mean, yeah, make me pick. I'm taking Oklahoma there.
Yeah, it's difficult to pick against them. When I look at being the number one seed, I hate how we do it. We do it like the NCAA March Madness bracket that we just go, well, this seed gets this team next no matter what. And it's like I wish that we did the NFL playoffs, that being the number one seed mattered in terms of you play the lowest seed now available. Like we reorganize so that you're getting, if JMU was to win, then Indiana, being the number one seed, should play JMU. Like that shouldn't fall to Texas Tech. You're not getting, like, by getting a bye, you also get robbed of playing a home field game. Like that to me is a huge piece of this, is that you're stacking. It's why none of the teams that got a bye last year won in the first round. In the second round. Like everyone who was on a bye lost. Like, does that trend get broken this year? Possibly. But you sort of look at some of these matchups and it's like Oregon playing Texas Tech. It's going to be if Texas Tech's quarterback played like he did against BYU, there's a great possibility Oregon could come out with a win. If Oklahoma's defense shows up like Penn State's defense did and gives him fits, or even like Ohio State's defense did, like the game was 13-10. Like Oklahoma has some guys that it's just like one play away from a touchdown, sort of like in that LSU game, that you just finally get one missed coverage and now you're behind the chains. Like it could easily go Oklahoma's way, could easily go Bama's way if they get in. Like it's anyone's game. You look at Georgia having to play probably Ole Miss again. Last time Ole Miss had them beat. Like,
so that would have been my answer to the question, is I would rather be Georgia in this situation. One, because, like you said, Texas Tech or Oregon is 99% winning that game, which, again, Texas Tech, Oregon, it'll probably be a good matchup. Miami and A&M both have, solid squads. So, like, Ohio State, I think, is better than both of them. But, like, again, they didn't play well against Indiana, so it could go either way. Georgia, in my opinion, I think has a better situation because if Tulane wins, great, right? But if Ole Miss does win, again, you've already beat them, and then the Lane Kiffin thing, like we talked about this kind of in just the Tulane game. Like the spread is pretty big, but we're not super confident in the spread simply because Lane Kiffin's gone. Like the team, we don't know yet, but like we feel like the team will probably have a little bit of a different feel to it. So that's my reasoning for Georgia, is that they're more than likely going to play Ole Miss, but it's a Lane Kiffin-less Ole Miss, and I think that's going to be the difference of why Georgia will again come out with the win. But you're right. The first time they played, Ole Miss had their number and should have won the game.
Yeah. The thing about Ole Miss, we'll know. I think they win the Tulane game no matter what, but you're going to have one of two things. You're either going to have kids that are just like on fire, like just like, you know what, we didn't need them. We're going to prove it to you right now that we're a better team. And they could easily beat teams. Like Chambliss has played really, really well.
Agreed.
Like they're capable of winning some games and their defense has played better. It just depends on, like you said, what do we see? And to be honest, as you just said, we have no idea. until the Tulane game, we have no idea what this team's going to look like offensively. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah. So I totally get you liking Georgia. I'd rather be A&M. I think Texas Tech. Oregon's been flawed all year. So in my opinion, I think whoever you draw in that matchup's the better matchup. And then you're playing Indiana, who Indiana they've looked very beatable. Like, they are the number one seed. They've earned that number one seed. But from a standpoint of you've watched some of their games, I think Texas Tech has the offensive explosiveness to hang with teams and to beat them. The defense played amazing. Like, played really, really well against the run, against a disciplined BYU team. I think Texas Tech can easily win the national championship.
Oh yeah,
like
they're for sure contenders.
So that's just my take on it. In that, any other questions?
No arguments there.
So here's my little piece of how do we fix it. So I heard guys talking about it immediately thereafter, like, do we need a floor? Do we need this? Like, all that stuff. I always like to answer, what does college football playoffs care about the most? Money. Like, so let's give a solution that makes more money. I think that what it should be is the committee still ranks teams 1 through 12. If you are a conference champ, but outside of the top 12. So in other words, the committee doesn't view you as one of the 12 best teams in the nation, but yet you're going to be bumping someone out of those 12 teams because you're a conference champ. We do a play-in game. So in this season, Notre Dame, who's the first team knocked out, would play the best team getting put in, which would have been, the opposite side, JMU, they're the last team, so they have to play JMU, and then Tulane has to play BYU. I think that in that scenario, everyone's happy. People may still argue about the seedings and stuff, which I would argue if they had this in place, you probably would have seen Bama drop to 11 or 12, and it's like, okay, now you go play JMU and Tulane. Notre Dame gets about it. It makes the committee's job a little bit easier to seed this bottom end because they sort of know in a year like this they can play around because there's going to be another game.
They also get to seed people with the assumption that the higher team's going to win anyway. Like in the Bama JMU, they get the win of saying, look, we put JMU in, but they also get the benefit of hey, but now you got to go play Bama to get in. Bama's probably going to win that game, so we're going to get what we wanted anyway. We get the illusion of saying that JMU was in, but really, and in the off chance that JMU wins, then it's like, hey man, Bama, you got nothing to complain about here because you lost to JMU.
Yes, and so you still give, because I think the argument that you're hearing by ESPN and some other things is do away with them. Oh, sorry, you didn't rank high enough. You still want that Cinderella story, because that matters and it gives teams a chance. And there should be some type of reward for being one of the 5 highest ranked seeds, because last year we didn't have an issue with the 5 ranked seeds outside of Clemson. Boise was ranked higher than Clemson. That's why they had a bye. We didn't have a problem with that. It's just this year. And I think that that's sort of the nice thing is there could be years that, guess what? All 5 teams are ranked in the top 12. You may only have one, but not in this year where it's 2. So you're just picking who would they have knocked out. In this solution is give that team who has the conference championship the home field advantage. At least give them, because I think it'd be doing them dirty to send them to Notre Dame or send them to Bama or something else. Give them the home field. It gets a whole nother week. Instead of just having to watch Army and Navy have a sad game, to be honest, don't get me wrong, it's historic, but it's awful football to watch. Can you imagine this week we have play-in football games? People would be excited for yet another week of college football.
I do think the solution at some point is going to be play-in games. The only flaw, and I'm sure there's a way to work around this, the only flaw with the play-in games, though, is that depending on when you play them, in this case, if you're saying after conference championship games, you're now almost exposing a team, if this was Bama, to another game before. Now they're playing 2 extra games as opposed to Oklahoma or Ole Miss or something like that. Which that's the one thing that I could see is unfair.
Bama should have won the game then.
I get it. That one thing you sent me in Pops with Gruden's idea, like, I think that fits really well. Basically, while other teams are playing conference championships, you've got the bubble teams playing the play-in games. I think that's a great solution. Again, it revolves around this play-in game type of scenario. I've seen a couple other ones floating around. I saw one, and it was very similar to what I projected, like at the beginning of the season, with like drawing the circles around the map. It took it a little bit further though. It eliminated some teams. So this is where I think it's unrealistic.
Was this the 80 teams?
Yes,
because
it's like it's great because like 80 teams is still a lot, right? I think me, the committee could sit down and like have a true conversation of just like, hey, there's like 30 teams that are currently in the FBS that need to be eliminated. I truly think we could do that probably and not really hurt anybody's feelings. You know what I mean? Like, other than those 30 teams, but like their fan bases are probably small, right? And what it does is what the solution had is it broke it back down into like a regional division, that was what college football was all about to begin with. So it kind of gets back to those roots. It shrinks the divisions, which I think that is like one of the number one problems right now is these conferences are just too dang big, which then drives stupid scheduling tactics so you don't even play everybody in your team or in your conference, But what it did is it was like 8, 10-team conferences. You have to play every single person in that conference. That would I'll say even the playing field of like who is the best in that conference, that guy goes to the playoff. And then you have this one at the end of like the whatever they called it, like the non-competitive division, which, that they would obviously have to change that, but it was all like the group of 5 teams, like the Boise States, the Tulanes, like you could put those teams in it, and that way you're guaranteeing some type of Cinderella story aspect of it. And then, you can however you want to do the rankings and add in a few at-large bids, those kinds of things. I think that would help solve a lot of it. The other thing, I don't think we'll ever get to this point, but in addition to that scenario, a way to try to keep those other 30 teams like still relevant, we have to do some type of relegation. Like, hey, if Boise State all of a sudden is just like kicking everybody's butt in this other bracket every single year, and you got some scrub like Kentucky that's just going 0-10 every single year, dude, relegate, right? You now, Kentucky, are in the crap division. Boise State gets to join whatever makes the most sense. You know what I mean? Like, we don't do relegation in like American sports, but that's because most American sports make sense when it comes to like how you seed people in playoffs. Like college football is the one thing that is just out of control, the stupidity of how we get to this point at the end of the year. So if we had some type of relegation of like, hey, if you can start winning multiple, like let's get North Dakota in here or North Dakota State. You know what I mean? Like they're probably putting up better competition than some of these other teams that just get like this, hey, we're in this conference, so we naturally look better than everybody else.
I agree. I think the problem is like the Big Ten and the SEC doesn't want to split the pot with money. Like, I think Saban has said this many, many times. That's what it's going to take for us to like get on the same page. College football's got to come under a commissioner. It's got to get away with the conference. Like conferences have to go away because under this plan, what it was 80 teams in 10 separate divisions. So there was 8 teams per division. And that way you played everyone. You still had conference championships for each. And then at the end of the conference championships, those conference championships teams went to a playoff. So really the conference championships were the beginning. That was the first round of the playoffs. and then the winners just played from there. And it made it to where, hey, now every team had a fair shot. Until we like align and get the money right where everyone's under the same umbrella, because it's why Notre Dame doesn't want to join conference, because they don't have to split the pot with anybody. They don't have to revenue share, which that's my question for you. I think of all the things that came out of this weekend, the most damning one was this bit of this little wrinkle that I can't believe hadn't gotten out until now. So the Notre Dame athletic director like said this, and I was like, when he said it, like I feel like people were like, "What did you just say?" Like, in yeah. So as a part of a memorandum of understanding signed last spring, like somehow this has like for all the things that Heather Dinich talks about on ESPN, the fact that this wasn't brought up as a part of this is mind-numbing. Mind-numbing. Notre Dame is assured of a college football playoff berth if it is ranked in the top 12 starting next season. If this year's situation unfolds next year, the final at-large team, Miami, would have gotten bumped for number 11, Notre Dame. If the playoff is expanded to 14 teams, then the at-large berths change and Notre Dame is guaranteed a spot 13 or better. This, to me, is the bigger piece of information because I'm all cool with conference champions getting an automatic bid, but the idea that Notre Dame, if you're just ranked high enough, gets an automatic bid, and you go, dude, next year's schedule, do you know who their away teams are?
Yeah,
they have three away games.
Yep.
3. Syracuse, North Carolina, and some other scrub. I'll go look it up. It made me mad. I had screenshot it earlier, and I gotta go find it. Dude, kick rocks. That's my question to you. What does that say?
What? So this brings one of my main points to the Miami Notre Dame thing, but I'll talk about this first. We were in this position back before the BCS where it was like, if you were a blue blood program, all you needed to do was just schedule cupcakes. Schedule cupcakes, kick everybody's butt, and be like, look how good we are, because we didn't have to play anybody. We tried to get away from that by like introducing the BCS, introducing the eye test from the committee, and like, but the way the committee has essentially forced us even further back the wrong way. Like Notre Dame is, why would you sign this? Because now Notre Dame don't got to play anybody. You can just be Notre Dame and you're going to get in. Texas has already said it. They're like, why would we schedule Ohio State ever again? Like, never again. We'll play our required SEC games and then everybody else is cupcakes. Why? Because the committee doesn't care. Like they're ruining what we've tried to accomplish over the last 20 years of like, we want more good games to watch, and they've screwed it up. Which brings me to my point of like the Miami Notre Dame of like going into this weekend, Notre Dame was ranked above Miami, which for the whole season you could have said, why? That doesn't make any sense. That being said, that's what the committee saw. That's how they ranked them. But then somehow over a weekend where neither one of them played a game, all of a sudden now Miami's better than Notre Dame. Based off of what? Like, based off of what? If you say it's the head-to-head, you're an absolute moron because that game happened week 1. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, they said it was because, well, now BYU's not in the middle, which that logic.
Well, that's what they said. They like, we put teams in pots and then we just rank them in the pots. And it just so happened that Notre Dame and Miami were never in a pot together. And I'm like, so you're not looking at all of the teams at the same time and saying who's better? Like, how flawed and ridiculous is that system? And, oh, by the way, the two teams that were right next to each other, how did you not have them in the same pot? Yeah. Like, Notre Dame was, what were they, 10, and Miami? No, I guess they were separated by a few. But still,
no,
you're like,
Notre Dame was 10, BYU was 11, Miami was 12.
Yeah, like how are you not looking at the teams that are right next to each other? Like, that is so ridiculous. Like, they have got to go. Like, the committee has got to go. They are. I know people are like, oh, bring back the BCS. That's not the answer because we've already talked about, and apparently nobody knows this. I've talked to so many people who are like big time football fans that like they thought the BCS was literally like a computer eye test. And I try to, I'm like, nobody knows this. People think the BCS was like an AI computer watching the games and going like, yeah, that team's good. No, they are basically using the AP poll and all, the two other polls. Yeah. And then they're just computer generating the weighting of it, which we've already talked about how stupid the AP poll is. And, that's why people didn't like the BCS. So like, but we've got to get rid of this committee, dude. Like the committee is, I sent this to you. They don't even tell everybody what their rules are, like all of the rules. The few rules that they do tell you what they're looking at, they don't even follow themselves. But then when they try to backwards explain why one team was it over the other, they don't use the same rules across the board. So like they've got to go. They're the biggest issue of all of this.
Yes. Well, so just to go through the committee, I did this last year. I'll do it again this year. So who's on the CFP committee? Chris Ault, 28 years, coached for Nebraska. He's no longer in any he retired from coaching in 2012. He's not in any other athletic organization. He's just with CFP. Troy Dannon, second year as the athletic director of Nebraska. Mark D'Antonio, the old coach for Michigan State. He's not in anything right now. Mark Harlan, athletic director for Utah. Jeff Long, athletic director at Kansas. Even Yvonne Monzel, he's an award-winning sports writer, so one sports writer. Chris Masario, athletic director for Middle Tennessee State. Mike Riley, coach for a long time, did a little bit of time in the NFL coaching, he's out. David Slater, athletic director for the University of Miami. Wesley Walls, he was a former tight end for the NFL. That's his big thing right now. Carla Williams, athletic director for Virginia. Hunter Urachek, who's the face that we've been seeing, athletic director for Arkansas. You won't... Sorry. I'm getting choked up with the BS that I'm reading.
Allergic to dumbness.
The idea that an athletic director for Virginia, your team was in the ACC's championship. The idea that girl watched, it has nothing to do with her being a girl, just an athletic director in general, was paying attention to all the other teams playing that weekend to make a decision while also managing all of the athletics that are going on at Virginia.
An entire university
is for the whole year. For the whole year. Like, they're supposed to take the entire season in perspective and look and make an informed decision. You're out of your mind. You're crazy. And that's my whole thing is this is why the votes are hidden. It's like a conspiracy theory on steroids. They don't want you to know the votes because it's never about, like, they didn't vote on anything. They did what the money said to go do. Like, and you're never going to be able to, the fact that there's no fights. Like, I want what the 13 teams should be, or the 13 committee members should be old football players. Like, it should be Tim Tebow. It should be, dude, put put Zeke Elliott. He ain't doing anything anymore in for Ohio State. Like, Michigan should be Charles Woodson. Like, you should have these, like, Bama. Just, like, go pick someone who won a national championship from that year. Like, just go throw someone in there, because then you have teams that are actively, at no point do you think Charles Woodson's going to be like, I think Ohio State should be the number 2 team. Like, you'd have guys that have actually played that can sit back and they'd at least be able to say that my only job is the committee. That's my thing. Like, this whole thing of, well, they volunteer to do this. Dude.
Yeah, of course they did, because it's like they're shoo-in for, whatever pet project they want to get in, and, it gives them some other bullet point to talk about. If there wasn't a better representation of, like, oh, we think this committee is like this all-knowing, omnipotent, they're always going to get it right, and then it showed their setup of them watching TVs, and it looked like some, like, bootleg Walmart, like, TVs behind other TVs and wires going everywhere. I'm like, you know what? That checks, dude. Like, that checks. Like, because that's about the amount of effort they put into these rankings. It's awful.
Awful. It is awful. And you can't sit back. That's, to me, like you've said this multiple times, you can't sit back and argue that we're putting the best teams in and then have Tulane and JMU in. So we like beat that fallacy. Now it comes out that as long as Notre Dame's ranked high enough, they're in. So now you have 3 automatic, really 6 teams that are going to be automatic bids. Notre Dame and the 5 highest conference champs. At this point, dude,
that's
just expand it to 24 teams.
That's
like,
half the field. And
yes.
then you go like, again, why are we even playing the games? Like, why do we even play the games? Like, I'm glad that they did follow through with the Tulane and JMU because it was at least the rule that they said they would do. Because I've said this multiple times. I get it. It doesn't make for great TV, but in the current flawed system, like, there's got to be a place for a team that you just don't know. Yes, this year it seems different. It feels different of like, why did we let Tulane and JMU in? But I always just look back to like last year. It's like Boise State. Did Boise State deserve to be in that playoff last year? Yes. Absolutely. And if you took it in this like, oh, well, we just got to rank the best 12 teams, like it never gives those teams a shot. So I like that fact of it. But again, like I'm not saying that like the current system is right. It is absolutely flawed. I do like the ability for some of those teams to show up if they are deserving. But like the way that we currently have it, again, you're just like, why do we even play the games? Like it feels like playing the games doesn't even matter because it's all based off of preseason AP polls. You could lose the 2 games that you should, that are hard games, go undefeated and still make everyone has a case now because it's just like who we are. Like that's all it's based off of. And it's like, did we not watch any of the football games? Like sports is not about getting the best teams in. Sometimes the best team doesn't win. Sometimes the best team doesn't even get in. And like, you know what? That's the way sports go. That's why we play the game. And we're getting further and further away from that. And that's what makes it really difficult as a football fan to watch the game devolve into it's going to be Georgia versus Austin Peay for 12 straight weeks. Like that's what they're devolving it into because nobody's going to want to play anybody else. The whole point of going to the 12-team playoff was like, we're going to get teams in that maybe have 2 or 3 losses, but we think they're good teams. And now they're going away from that, and they're punishing certain teams based on the way that the schedule goes. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, you know what? Nah, I would rather just be undefeated, and I'll take my first test in the first round. How about that?
The third team I was missing for Notre Dame was at Purdue. So they only play 3 true away games. Now, they have some other away games. Like they start off the season against Wisconsin. It's at Green Bay. So it's not in, yes, it's in the state of Wisconsin, but it's not at their home field. Both teams are going to travel. They play USC at a site under to be determined. It's probably going to be SoFi. Like
I was going to say Allegiant, but yeah.
Or Allegiant. Yeah, it will be one of those. It'll be a little bit easier on USC fans, but it's not a true home field game. So they're only playing 3, Syracuse, North Carolina, and Purdue. What you just said, dude, I look ahead at Bama's schedule, like in a few years they play Ohio State, they have a home and away series. It's like, dude, trash that.
No, yeah, why? Why would you expose yourself to that?
Yeah, if you learned anything from Texas, why do that? Like, in Holly's brother said it, he goes, dude, I sort of think we should go independent. Like, our reputation speaks for itself. Why do we need to go play in a conference anymore if Notre Dame doesn't? Like, I'll just not play in a conference. I'll schedule who I want. I'll cherry pick these teams, most of who are absolute hot garbage. Like, if I can go beat up on Belichick's 25-year-old girlfriend and still get in the college playoff, then why am I not doing that?
It's going to be Rutgers, UCF, Florida Atlantic.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, like
Army, Navy, Air Force every year.
Yeah.
Let me just beat the tar out of these service academies, and I'm a hero to America, and I get in the college football playoff.
And again, as a fan, you're like, I don't want to see that, dude. Like we wanted like Bama, Ohio State every weekend, and
yes.
we were. The reason that these conferences got big and how they sold it to us was like, that's what you're gonna get. And it's like the fact that Texas A&M has been in the SEC for 12 years now and has only played Georgia once. Like, I'm sorry, you lied. Like, you took your money and lied straight up, and now we have a worse product because of it.
And Georgia has never played at A&M. Ever. Like, think about you. Oregon's been in the Big Ten for a few years now, and at least they've had to play everybody. Like, that to me, USC's had to go play Michigan at Michigan and get them at home. Like, they haven't played Ohio. Next year, I think they play Ohio State.
We
But
play Ohio State next year.
Like, they played Penn State. Like, they've at least scheduled the marquee guys, and like, I 100% agree with that. Like, the SEC was hiding better teams away from other people in order to create a matchup that, hey, well, we stacked our box. Like, we have multiple teams in. Like,
Bama asking Georgia, like, how did you win at Kyle Field? Georgia's like, who's Kyle?
Yeah, dude. For me, it's why I love the NFL. Like, me and Pops just finished recording that episode, and we were going through the current playoff picture of who these bubble teams are. And it's like, at no point, you said that I wish we meant to record the episode last year at the end. If you remember, I'm going to try to see if you remember this. You brought this point up that you were like, dude, in every year prior, you can sort of like look and sort of see like how maybe a team got in. And then you look at Ohio State. Yes, they won the national title, but like last year, you're like, okay, like Ohio State, like national champion. Like in 50 years from now, when we go back and look, you're going to be like, Ohio State was national champions. Like, so they won the Big Ten? And you're going to be like, no. You're like, oh, so who they lose to in the Big Ten championship? And like, they didn't play in the Big Ten championship. And you're like, so they beat Michigan, right? Like, they beat all their rivals. And you're like, no, they lost to Michigan last week at game of the year. And like, how they get in again? And like, don't get me wrong, they did what they needed to in the playoffs to win, but like, that's what the 12-team playoff is becoming. Like, it's becoming this like system where you're sort of like sitting back and you're like, don't know how some of these teams got in the first place when there was other teams that you could argue for.
We already have it. Like, we have that exact thing this year already, because it's going to be like, dang, Bama made it with 3 teams. They were the first 3-team, team to make the CFP. You're gonna be like, yeah. You're like, well, why did they make it with 3 teams? Well, their third loss came in their conference championship, and they didn't want to punish them. And you're like, oh, that's probably smart. You're like, but wait, BYU was 11-2 and ranked 11th. How come they didn't make it? Well, they lost in their conference championship. You're gonna be like, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean? They had a better record, and they lost to the same team, which happened to be. You're like, oh, so those 2 losses must have been to a terrible team, right? No. It was to the number 4 team in the nation, who's probably got a shot at the Natty. You're like, well, Bama must have just lost to like Georgia, who was the number 1 team in the nation twice, right? No, they lost to Florida State. And you're like, what logic are we using here? Like, you in the NFL, and again, you've already brought this up, like every single year, you can look back and go, why did that team make it? They had more wins than that team. Oh, okay. Moving on. Like, it does, and I get it. Like, college is different where you can't just go based off of wins. However, historically, college football has always bracketed and ranked based off of losses. Like, that's what college football does. And again, we're getting so far away from that. You're just like, I don't even know what is right anymore.
And just to throw it out there, that way Bama shouldn't be in the playoff. Like, I'm dead honest with you. When you look at how the season's progressed, really since that Missouri game that they really squeaked one out, they play South Carolina, took it was still a good win, but squeaked one out. Go play Oklahoma at home, you turn the ball over 3 times, you lose. You play a scrub, then you go play Auburn, and you need everything in the bag of tricks to beat Auburn. Now, Auburn's been difficult for other teams to beat this year. Oklahoma struggled with them. Other teams have struggled with Auburn. That's not a resume booster. That's just you avoided the pressure. Then, like you said, you had -3 rushing. We knew Bama's rush game sucked. Like, Bama was lucky for them to get 7 on the board. They didn't cross the 50, I don't feel like, in the first 3 quarters. Like, dude, as a Bama fan, it was very difficult to watch. That was like watching Bama from the early Saban years beat up on other teams. I finally felt what it felt like to just feel hopeless during a game, that you're just like, dude, who is this other scrub that we got on this? Where's Saban? Please come home. Like, I was just, yeah, it was rough to watch. They shouldn't be in there's no way that you can sit back and say that they are one of the 12 teams. And then, like your scenario, that if we look back in a few years and you're like, so BYU lost. They dropped a few spots. So Bama lost. Where did they drop to? And you're like, oh, they stayed the same. You're like, how? That doesn't make any sense. They lost pretty much the exact same way. Neither game was competitive for either team. And you didn't even drop them. Like, I sit back and I go,
BYU at least had one good drive at the beginning of the game.
yeah, BYU at least led.
Yeah, they came right out and scored.
Yeah. So some of that stuff you just sort of sit back, and it's the beautiful thing about the NFL, because at least at the end of the day, it's like last year, no one argued that Joe Burrow is putting up MVP numbers. They were like, well, they should have won more games and they would have been in. Like, the eyeball test doesn't exist in the NFL. And it's like, that's what makes the NFL great. But and I've said this like multiple times, the NFL doesn't have a problem because it says all of these teams are professional teams. So wins and losses count equally. College, we can't even do that because, like, the Texas scenario is a great one. You lost week 1 at an opponent. You went to Ohio State. You took the hard game. You went to their stadium and you lost by 7. And then your other 2 losses were, guess what? Both on the road. You lost to Florida. Yes, it's a bad loss. But then you went to Georgia at night and lost. Like, last time I checked, after the game that Ohio State played, Ohio State never had to play a hard game on the road outside of the Michigan one, which, let's be honest, Michigan wasn't a great team this year. That's why they weren't ranked high. Like, Ohio State didn't have to battle like Texas did. But like you said, the committee was more than happy to just scuttle Texas. Now, don't get me wrong. Texas struggled against Kentucky, struggled against Mississippi State. Bama did the same thing at South Carolina and Auburn. It may not win in overtime, but it was the exact same thing. Like, it needed help to get the win. They found a way to win. At least they didn't lose. But I'm right there with you. That little things like that. Same thing with Vanderbilt. Like, we punished Vanderbilt because they lost to Bama and they lost to Texas. And I think the only reason that we didn't want to put Vanderbilt in is because if we put them in, well, then you have to put Texas in because of the head-to-head. Like, it was sort of like a few years ago with Bama and Texas. It was like they felt compelled to put Texas in because Bama won the SEC championship and they left Georgia out. When I think everyone knew that it was really Bama and Georgia. Like, sorry, Texas hadn't lived up to the billing as the season went along to deserve the spot. But there we were. So... which, who knows? Maybe if they put Georgia in, Georgia doesn't lose the first round game. Who knows how that works out?
The other thing, like the difference between the NFL and college, is like the NFL is so unapologetic because they're just like, these are the rules.
Yes.
Like, you win the games or you lose the games. Like, at the end of the day, you don't have to like it. We don't even care if you like it. These are the rules. This is what happens. Better luck next season. Whereas college football, dude, we like pander to all of these fan bases of like, oh, well, we don't want to upset them, and like, oh, well, we think they deserve it, and everybody's got a reason of why they deserve to be in, and it's like that doesn't exist. Like, you don't have the Arizona Cardinals out there just like, well, Kyler Murray got hurt, but like, we really feel like we're a better team than the Rams. Like, doesn't matter, dude. You don't have the wins, you're not in. Like, and better luck next year. Like, the NFL is so unapologetic about it, but college football is ran by this committee, which is like sub-funded by ESPN, which is also in bed with the SEC. And it's just, there's so many like things that they have to like try to pander to that you get this abortion of a outcome. And it's ruining the game from like a fan standpoint.
Speaking of abortions,
Savage.
That clip of that girl that was like, oh, now Notre Dame's pro-choice?
Now you're pro-choice?
I feel like you need to take this college football season to term. Play your bowl game. It's God's will.
Well, let's talk about that, though. Like, Notre Dame's going, we're not playing a bowl game. Initial reaction, you're just like, soft, dude, soft. Cry baby, soft. You have to put special memorandums in for yourself that nobody else gets to play by. You're the one independent team always. Like you have all of these rules that benefit you and only you. And then when you don't get what you want, even after all of this extra help, you're like, nah, we don't want to play in a bowl game. Soft. On the other hand, I do not blame them. I do not blame them one bit. Because, like we talked about, and I just talked about, college football is run by money. And not that, like, Notre Dame sitting out is going to, like, lose college football money, but Notre Dame's kind of drawing this line in the sand of just going like, you know what? If you're not even going to follow the rules and make sense of what we think should have happened in 12 best teams, blah, 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 like, we're not going to participate and continue to boost ratings and give ESPN money and all that stuff with the bowl game. So, like, I would not have made that decision. That's a soft decision, especially from, like, the player standpoint, because I remember what it felt like to be able to go to a bowl game and have that experience. But, like, I don't blame them from, like, we won't participate in your circus if you're not going to reward us. Like, I don't blame them, mainly because, let's be honest, outside of the CFP, bowl games mean jack.
I was literally about to say, now Notre Dame is one of many teams who have already said we ain't playing in a bowl game this year. Like, teams who are eligible. Like, I think it was Kansas State and Iowa State, both of whom, like, the Big 12's finding $500,000 each because they both were like, we ain't playing in the game. Some money things to understand about bowl games. This is like, Notre Dame wouldn't have had the problem filling the seats, but just to, like, from a athletic department standpoint, I don't think a lot of people understand this, and they should. So, like, when we went to a bowl game, both teams get seats. The athletic department gets billed for those seats, regardless if they sell them or not. You're paying for the seats. That's the deal that we have for this bowl game. If the athletic department doesn't sell enough tickets, guess what? They lose money on the bowl game. And this has happened multiple years that, guess what? Like, fans, they're just like, dude, I don't care to go.
I can't go to the Bahamas Bowl, during Christmas. I'm paying for Christmas.
It's already during a bad time of the year. It's like, who wants to go to Memphis to watch the Liberty Bowl? Like, I'm not trying to get shot. Like, my team already sucks bad enough. I don't want to compound this with medical bills. Like, like, I'm sorry, you're not going to convince me that Memphis is a good time in the winter. Like, my team sucks. Like, Gut said the only reason he ever enjoyed the Liberty Bowl in Memphis because he could just drive. And he's like, then I didn't have to stay in that crime-forsaken city. I could at least get out and go back to dirty Mississippi. Like, think about that. Your city was so bad that people would rather stay in Mississippi than stay in Memphis. Like, why would I want to go to that game?
Take this L and this shiv.
Now where's your money? I spent all this money
in your life.
Yeah. Came out and all my tires are gone because someone put them up on cinder blocks. Like, that's bowl games. And we said this last year. I think it's like, if you want to do out of conference things and make it fair for everyone else, and whatever the bowl game was, it transitions to the beginning of next year. That's the opening game of the season, because then we get to at least see that the teams who were good the year prior, how they rank out. Like, are they still good? Does this matter next year? The college teams from the playoffs, they don't have to play again. That's sort of a wash, but some of these games can at least get some fodder out. I think it's the only, because if we keep going at the rate that we're going, if I don't make the college football playoff, then I ain't going to the Gasparillo Bowl. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to the Cheez-Its Bowl. Like, the only bowl game I watch, dude, the Pop-Tart Bar, fire from the mascots alone. Yeah. I watched that game just to see when that Pop-Tart ripped off that aluminum foil, I was like, hell yeah, brother. I am here for the Pop-Tart Bowl.
It's like, you know what? I haven't had a Pop-Tart in a while. I'm going to go buy me some.
Dude, everyone's like, the Rose Bowl should be the national championship game. The Pop-Tart Bowl should be the national championship game. I bet they could come up with some wild things for pregame and halftime for the Pop-Tart Bowl if that was the natty. My opinion only. So, we've ranted about that for 54 minutes. We're gonna do an episode. Before we got on, me and Maul we wanted to do like just a reactionary to the playoff committee. We've done that. We've reacted a lot. I'll just get your initial vibes. I know where both of us sort of sit, maybe because we've both thrown money at who we think are going to win. If you want, we can just talk about the bet. And, you know.
Yeah, I think Oregon covers. They're just – I know JMU is kind of hype, and they've got a great record, but when you can't run away from Troy, sorry, you got – that's 3 touchdowns easy against Oregon, in my opinion. I think we talked about Oklahoma, Bama. I think Oklahoma's going to struggle. Bama's going to struggle against Oklahoma just because of Oklahoma's defense. Miami A&M, I think, is probably going to be the best game because I'll talk about Tulane, Ole Miss again. I think Tulane is a fine team. I think they should be very proud of where they're at. Whether they're deserving or not, again, a lot of people will say no just based on where it was. But I think Tulane should be very happy with their season. We talked about we don't know what Ole Miss is going to look like. I do think they win the game, I'll say easily, maybe not like handedly from a score standpoint, but I think Tulane's going to come out, maybe have like 1 or 2 good offensive possessions, and then just kind of get overwhelmed by the defense. They're going to see these bigger, faster, stronger guys running around and going, oh, man, we don't belong on the field with these dudes. And then A&M, Miami. This is one of those, like, I could see it going either way. Texas A&M has played good football. Even though they've had a very weak schedule, they have still played decent football. But we've seen them play very bad football against lesser opponents. I feel like they were hidden behind how easy their schedule was all year. Not their fault. That's just the way the schedule worked out. So we'll see what team shows up. Miami, truly from a talent standpoint, I think is a better football team. The one question mark, though, which we've been talking about all year, is Carson Beck. Like, if he doesn't turn the ball over multiple times, I think Miami wins. But if he has his Louisville game where he's turning the ball over every other possession, his classic he was the problem at Georgia type of game, I think A&M is going to just be too much for him. But I think they're very evenly matched teams. I'm expecting that one to be an actual good game.
Yeah, I mean, the line right now was 21.5 for the Oregon game. I bumped that all the way up to 29.5. Just I think Oregon murders them. Like JMU, the Troy game said enough. Like honestly, I think Duke deserved. If we're doing like just an eyeball test, Duke deserved to be in more than JMU. Now, when you factor in the records and everything, I get what the committee did. But from a standpoint of who was going to be more competitive against Oregon, the answer was not JMU. JMU is going to get it's which I sort of think the committee knows what they're doing by doing this, because it's sort of like, hey, we're expecting this to be ugly. That way we can have a meaningful conversation about why this shouldn't happen again. That's part one. Tulane and Ole Miss have played once this year. The score was 45-10. That was week 4. I get that a lot of things have happened since then, but from a standpoint of the only thing that's happened is Kiffin's not in the building anymore. I still think that Ole Miss has the roster to whoop Tulane. I got them by 20 points. Like that, the spread right now was like 17. I think 20's easily attainable for Ole Miss to win by. Bama, Oklahoma, dude. Honestly, it should everything on paper says it should be Oklahoma's game. That's who my pick is. It's Oklahoma to win. The only question is, what Bama team do we see? We've now seen 3 times that Bama looked like they did against Florida State. But they are also capable of going into Athens and doing what they did to Georgia the first time. Like, that team's there.
It's the slide of tie, dude. Like, they weren't able to run the ball at all, obviously, -3 rushing yards. But, like, you can't say that was because Jam Miller was out. Like, they haven't been able to run the ball all year. So that wasn't really anything different from Alabama's perspective. It was Ty. I said it during the game. That dude looked so rattled. Like
Yes.
he was back there in a clean pocket with the happiest feet, sailing dudes left and right. Like that game was way too big for him. And you can't tell me that all of a sudden the first round of the playoff is all of a sudden he's going to figure it out.
Yeah, I don't see that. Like since the second half of the season, I mean, they were talking about Heisman after that Georgia game. And since that point, my man has struggled hardcore.
And momentum is a huge factor in college football, and he is on the wrong side of momentum right now.
Yes. Oklahoma wins the game. The Miami-Texas A&M, I'm right there with you. So when my dad and me went and watched Pittsburgh play Buffalo, we didn't sneak in. And we snuck in for what we paid $20 a ticket, and we're sitting like 7 rows from the field for pretty much the end of the second quarter, the whole second half of Pitt-Miami. Miami, size-wise, looked like they were playing a high school team against Pitt. Pitt had a defensive like both of Miami's tackles. The line, I don't know what the official statistic would be. I think they outweighed them by a minimum of 500, if not close to 1,000 pounds. Dude, both of their tackles standing next to Pitt's defensive tackle, I was just like, dude, it's not a fair game. Like, Pitt wasn't going to win that game. Sorry. From a standpoint of Texas A&M is going to match up a lot better. Like, Texas A&M has a good defense. Mike Elko knows how to coach a good defense. I think Texas has far more explosive players than Miami does when we talk about the Longhorns compared to Miami the last time that A&M played. Miami's got Malachi Toney, who's a really good true freshman, but outside of him, when I watched that game, don't get me wrong, like, they still had that guy that I forget what his name is. I feel bad for not knowing it, that made the catch against Notre Dame. He made another one right at the end of the game against Pitt that was tremendous. But from a standpoint of like Miami having this like super potent offense, they don't. Their best hope is their defense. Like Miami needs their defense to come in and shut down A&M like the Longhorns did. I think that's possible. But I'm right there with you. If there's any difference in this game, it's that Miami's going against probably the best defense outside of Notre Dame they've played all season. And where does my logic fall? It's that Carson Beck's going to do Carson Beck things. Like, it's hard not to bet against Carson Beck, and I got A&M in the game.
So all of that being said, I don't disagree with you entirely. I've got the over in the game. The over right now is 51. Simply for the simply for the fact of both of these teams have shown throughout the season, even though they may not play full and complete games, when it comes down to it, they're really good at like staging some type of comeback and putting up a lot of points quickly. A&M had to do it against South Carolina. Miami has had to do it multiple times this year. Like, they're both good. In big games, they're both good at putting up points. That's my logic. Carson Beck might throw a few picks, and A&M might take advantage of it and put points up on the board. But if there's one thing Carson Beck has done well, it's like staging some random comeback where his stat line looks good at the end of the game. That's my logic there. He may have 2 or 3 picks, but he also may have like 4 touchdowns for 400 yards and lose the game by 2.
Yeah. Do you think that Texas A&M is supposed to do what Ohio State did last year? That you catch your loss at the very end. It puts you...
No. I mean, set up in the same situation, absolutely. I don't think they have the talent to run through that type of gauntlet.
Okay, so because the winner of that game would face Ohio State, who do you, like, I know we're going to go through it. I'm not going to say who do you think wins the national championship. Name the teams that are capable of winning the national championship from this year's bracket.
Indiana.
Okay.
Ohio State.
Okay.
Georgia, Texas Tech. And outside of that, I'd maybe say Ole Miss. And that one is like I'll put a pin in it until I see how they play without Kiffin. That's it.
I'm in total agreement. I think I would throw A&M out there as I think that any given Saturday they're capable. The issue is I really don't feel like I've seen Texas A&M be tested except outside of Notre Dame, which that was a 41-40 game, which, hilarious enough, do you remember that quarterback that came in for Alabama last year against UCF or South Florida that just struggled? Buckner looked awful. He was a transfer from Notre Dame the year prior. Well, he went back to Notre Dame. Okay. That was the guy that fumbled the snap for the extra point against A&M. Oh. So it's like the guy that looked terrible at Bama that went back to Notre Dame. That they're one extra point away from being in the college football playoff. It just happens to be that one play that ended up catching them.
The only reason I truly believe that Texas Tech is a true contender is because of how good their defense is, but also mainly because of how everybody else looks as a whole. There's not really any one super dominant team, like on both sides of the ball. I don't see it because Texas Tech's offense isn't super fantastic, but their defense is good enough. Like Indiana, Ohio State, you would have expected that to be some type of good shootout going back and forth. 10-13. Like there's not a team out there right now that I think anybody like truly fears. That sets up for defense wins championships type of year. And to be honest, I think Texas Tech's probably got the best defense out there.
I don't know if you know this stat, but I do want to throw it out. So the one game that Texas Tech lost was without their starting quarterback.
Their original starting quarterback or their now current starting quarterback who was the backup to start the season?
Morton.
Okay.
Morton was the starter at the beginning of the year. They went to Hammond in the Utah game and then back to Morton. And then Hammond came in after Morton got hurt against Arizona State. They lost. They went to a different quarterback, Griffiths, against Oklahoma State, who was trash. They won that game. But then Morton's been the starter for the rest of the year. This is the only thing when I talk about dominance. All the other games, Texas Tech's won by a minimum of 20 points. It's not, dude, which I get. Some of the teams, first, I don't even know who the first team is they play. It's UAB PB.
Arkansas Pine Bluff.
There you go. 67-7. Kent State, 62-14. Oregon State, 45-14. Utah, 34-10. Houston, 35-11. Kansas, 42-17. Oklahoma State, 42-0. Kansas State, 43-20. BYU, 29-7. Central Florida, 48-9. West Virginia, 49-0. BYU, 34-7. If there's any team that I would argue is playing pretty stinking flawless right now, it's Tech. Like, not to name a national champion, that's a team that I sit back and I go, I wouldn't want to play. Like, Tech's got that, and it's like they've never been this team. Like, did you watch that video Pop sent with the NIL?
No.
Oh, dude.
Oh, yeah. The guy, the billionaire. Yeah. I watched that one.
And did you hear what he said about next year?
Mm-mm.
He's like, everything that we have says that next year's team's going to be even better. Like, this to me,
good for them.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, 100%.
The other side of NIL that I thought was hilarious is how did Indiana go from 150 years of playing terrible football to then we started playing payers and you got really good? Like, were you just that dumb at hiding money under the table for 150 years?
They were playing by the rules.
Yeah, I guess so. They were just the only honest football team out there was Indiana.
Honest fool.
Yeah. Which, dude, hats off. Like, that's honestly like what I enjoy from college football is I don't think anyone out there would have been like, that guy would be a starter on our team going into the season. Like, no one was sitting back like trying to like go grab Indiana's players. But yet here they are battling. Like, Cignetti's done a great job of finding guys that fit his system that also play very, very well. Like, I told Pops, if there was anything that came out of that Ohio State game, Mendoza has the best arm for the NFL. Like, he's NFL ready for the arm. Like, some of the throws he made I watched Ty under pressure not get a ball close to dude. Mendoza was putting in dude's chest. Like, fantastic. Like, the arm on him, It's better than anybody in college football right now. I would argue.
I would argue Mayava has a probably similar skill set arm wise, but I don't think is as talented as Mendoza, or makes good enough decisions.
He has a. This is like Lincoln Riley hate. I think that Lincoln Riley at times gets so cute with the offense instead of letting the offense just do the things that it's naturally good at, that it hurts USC in the long run. Like some of the trick plays that they have, you just sort of like sit back and it's like, yeah, I get it. Like it was great, but like, you know what was better is if you just gave the best guy the player and threw it up to Lemon. Like
we do that a lot. We'll have this like great drive and we'll get down there like real quick, and it's like right when we get in the red zone, we do this like, oh, we're going to score, and then all of a sudden like all the plays change and we try to like do all this cute stuff, and it's like, dude, you didn't score yet. Like finish the drive.
Yeah. The only thing that worries me Indiana-wise going into it is I've seen it now a couple times. Like they're a really good home run hitter for touchdowns, but in the red zone, you could tell that the talent hurts them. That they're not super great at running the football, like when yards matter, and they don't have super explosive guys that are like 50-50 ball guys or any of that, like on the edges. That's the only thing that worries me for Indiana is they could easily, like Oklahoma for them is a dangerous matchup. Like they could easily get caught.
They could if they turn the ball over, but I also think Indiana's defense is kind of underrated. Like I think they're better than people give them credit for. And whether it's Bama or Oklahoma, I don't think that offense stacks up. So like, yes, if every trip to the red zone, or they have minimal trips to the red zone, they like turn the ball over or only come away with field goals, sure. Like if Mateer has a random like Heisman level type of game, they could get caught, but I find it improbable for how bad Oklahoma and Alabama's offenses are that they're going to like really put up that many points on Indiana's defense.
You think Ohio State struggles more with A&M or Miami?
I've kind of said I feel like those teams are very like they're the same team in my opinion. If I'm Ohio State, I would rather play Miami just for the fact that they could be very opportunistic against Beck. Like, from a team standpoint, I think they're very similar, and they both match up equally. I think Beck is prone enough to turnovers that Ohio State would rather play that and take advantage of the turnovers.
I agree, but from a slightly different perspective, I think that when you have a running quarterback like Reed, it just adds this small I say small dynamic, but it's huge when in the game, especially versus an aggressive pass rush, which Ohio State has. That if you just lose lane integrity, that he's running. Like he's gonna go and he's gonna get 10 yards. Like it's just one of those things that you have to be able to keep, and it hurts your coverage. You have to keep a spy. It changes the game. Now you can keep him contained, and it takes away a huge part of A&M's offense, and we've seen them struggle when he can't get out and run. But yeah, it is a difficult. I would rather have Miami as well if I was Ohio State. Than it's easy to say for Georgia and Texas Tech. I'd love to have Tulane or JMU somehow pull off a shocker.
Yeah.
Because it ain't happening 2 weeks in a row. What's the key to beat or the four teams in there that are having a bye? What's the key to beat each of them? And then we'll shut it down.
Ohio State, Indiana showed it. I mean, you got to have a good defense, one, because like they can put up points, but if your defense is just solid enough and you can keep them from scoring a lot of points, you know, that sounds stupid and like, oh well, no duh, but like most teams can't do that. So like you need a good defense, which I don't think Miami or A&M's defense is good enough to do that. I do, however, think Georgia's defense is good enough to do that. I think Texas Tech's defense is good enough to do that, and I think Indiana obviously is good enough to do that. Georgia Dude, Georgia to me is one of those teams that's like you got to let them beat themselves. Like because when they show up and they play like their level of football, you go, I don't know who could beat them, but they have proven multiple times that they can beat themselves. And because look, I know they dominated Alabama, but don't like Georgia did not look overly impressive on the offensive side of the ball. And part of I think why their defense looked so good was because of Alabama's offense was so bad. Like Ty had dudes open, he was just missing them. So it's like if Fernando Mendoza's hitting those plays, all of a sudden it's a completely different game. So I think Georgia just needs to beat themselves. Indiana, I would say your best bet against them is make them start slow. They're good at coming back, but if they get out hot, good luck keeping up. Ohio State did their best, but Ohio State has a really good defense. So again, this is why I think Tech is such a contender, because all of these teams, it's again sounds stupid, but like struggle against good defenses. As like no duh as that sounds, we've seen teams in the past where like it doesn't matter how good your defense is, our offense is going to score points. We don't have that team this year. So this is why I said like the defense is going to win the championship this year, and that's why I think Tech is just such a real contender. Tech's where you'll beat Tech is they're going to get stops. Like Texas Tech will stop you at some times. You just have to not turn the ball over. That Texas Tech is very good at causing turnovers with how good their defense is. And if you can just not turn the ball over and give them short fields, you should be able to score some points with the rest of these teams in there, and that's how you're going to beat Tech. Just not losing the turnover battle.
Makes sense. Well, that's all I got. Good college episode rant.
Who's your Final Four and champion? Just we'll preview.
Tech wins. Ohio State wins. Georgia wins. The game I'm hung up on is the Indiana one, and it's just I'm going to say Indiana just because of Oklahoma's offense, but I'm telling you right now that if it in that game, it would be hard not to lay some points on Oklahoma to win from a defense. I think that the defense is good. That the issue is you saw them struggle against an LSU team that you're just like, dude, if the offense was any better, like if they showed any signs of life, I'd take Oklahoma in the game.
That's fair.
But I'd take Indiana. So I think in this year, all of the teams with a bye win. I'm on your side of the fence with Georgia. I think Georgia beats Ohio State.
Agreed. I have the same.
It's just, I think that the loss from a few years ago, will come back. Ohio State, that will be the hype as Ohio State lost against Georgia, against Stetson Bennett and all that. And, if we had just won this game. And then I like Texas Tech. And for me, Texas Tech is the Natty winner this year. I like what Texas Tech is doing. I like their defense. They have a lot of weapons offensively. I'm on the opposite boat of Texas Tech. BYU had a chance to change plays in that game with pick sixes, and they didn't catch the ball. Like the momentum swings that were there to be had from BYU were there. But if you give Texas Tech enough opportunities, they're going to beat you.
Yes.
You got to score. Against Texas Tech, you better score.
Yeah, that's why the BYU game looked like a blowout, or kind of the way it did. Texas Tech got the turnovers, and BYU had the opportunities and couldn't. There was probably in that first quarter, there was 3 picks that BYU could have had, and that would have completely flipped the game on its head. It didn't help that their quarterback hurt their ankle really early, but that's what it is. It's going to be the turnover battle with Texas Tech, I think, throughout the season and throughout the playoff. And if Texas Tech can win that turnover battle, I agree they can beat every team in the playoff.
You want to throw out your prediction that you said in text about the BYU quarterback?
This was a way, way too early prediction, but I did say that if Bear played all 4 years, he's going to win a Heisman.
And I told Maul I think he's dead on. I think This year will set the hype stage for that. Like they were a good team. And if they come out next year and are competing again and he's having a good year running the football, like it's going to be hard to argue statistically with what I think he's going to produce at BYU over the next few years.
Yeah, and I could see him having the season next year, but like maybe getting edged out by a Julian Sayin or something like that. But then like being no doubt the front runner his junior year, like before the season starts. He's gonna be like the Arch Manning level of hype of like it's his to lose.
Yeah, I see it. Well, that's what we got for this episode. You got anything else before we shut down?
That's it.
All right, time to pull chalks. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.